Alrighty then. It's been a little while, but time for the Metallist again. I've been thinking about this one for a while. That's probably why I took a couple extra days to get this going. But I'm going to talk about singers today. All right. Now, these are my favorite singers. They might not be yours. They might be yours. Doesn't matter. Whatever you like is cool, right? This list is pretty interchangeable for the most part. I do have 10 of them here, and I got some honorable mentions too. But the guys at the top are pretty much the guys at the top. However, they could flip-flop at any time, given my mood on any particular day. But we'll start at the top here. Number one, and I'm sure this will come as a huge shock to all of you. My favorite singer is Phil Mogg. He is. He just is. Okay. Is he the greatest singer in the world? Probably not. But I got to tell you something. I think there's damn few singers that can sing as well as that guy. It's 70, I think, 3 years old now. You know, he's freaking amazing. Just saw him a little over a year ago, February 2020, before all the COVID nonsense started. Sounds as great as ever. Great singer, great songwriter. Does not get enough credit for the songwriting because people that follow the band know that in their 50-year history, he's the only guy that's on every single record. You know, a lot of people think, UFO is nothing without Michael Schenker. That's their opinion, but, Phil Mogg is UFO, plain and simple. And he's had a lot of great cast of characters through the years, a lot of great guys in the band, but the quality of the music is always very, very consistent. So that's why Phil's my favorite. Now, as far as an actual great vocalist, come on, Ronnie James. Gotta be, right? I mean, Dio's just amazing. He was amazing on his own. He was amazing with Sabbath. Loved him when he worked with Iommi. Loved him when he worked with Ritchie, particularly Rainbow Rising. Pretty much the dawn of power metal. Dio's Dio, right? I mean, the guy's just a legend. Yeah, Ronnie James, I would say, is right up there with Phil. Phil's my favorite, but Ronnie's probably, the best metal singer. Best singer overall? Come on. Got to go with Freddie, right? Freddie Mercury. I don't even know where to begin. The guy was so amazing and one of the great frontmen. I mean, there's a difference between being a great vocalist and a great frontman. He was both. David Lee Roth's a great frontman. Great singer? Yeah, not so much, but that's okay. Still love Roth. He's not on my list though, by the way. Same thing with Steven Tyler. Pretty decent singer, depending on what you're looking for. I don't really know how he does nowadays. I think the last time we saw Aerosmith was 97, I want to say. So it's been a bit. And, another guy, great frontman. But like I say, those are just little side notes. And, of course, like I say, after Phil and Ronnie and Freddie, got to go Ian Gillan. I mean, Purple's what started it all for me way back in 1970. First time I heard Ian Gillan, just blew my mind, right? So, I mean, so many great records. He has a lot of great solo albums most people aren't aware of. But, yeah, you want to check out some Ian Gillan solo stuff, I would recommend Glory Road from 1980. That's a great one. Mr. Universe is a good one from 1979. If you're looking for a little more jazz fusion, look for stuff called the Ian Gillan Band. And he did several records under that name before he just called it Gillan. And that's a little bit more jazz fusion kind of stuff. It's pretty cool, but very different from sort of the Deep Purple kind of thing. And then under the name Gillan, it was just more just of a rock band kind of thing. So of course Ian. Then the guy they call the Voice of Rock. Okay, he's got to be on this list. Talking about Glenn Hughes, of course. Really looking forward to September. Glenn Hughes is coming to town with the Dead Daisies. Due to some poor timing throughout my life, I have only seen Glenn Hughes on stage twice to this point. The first time was with Deep Purple back in December of '74. Next time we have to fast forward all the way to 1986, where I saw him in one of the very few shows he did with Black Sabbath. And Glenn was having some pretty serious substance problems at the time. He ended up only doing 6 shows on that tour before he was replaced by a young guy that we all came to know and love later, Ray Gillen, who definitely makes my honorable mentions, by the way. So even though I got to see Glenn, he was not in top form at that point. I had to go out of town for work in 1994, and of course, the week I was out of town was the week that the original Trapeze reunited and came to town. I'm like, oh, that killed me. And then he had played a Deep Purple show up in Ohio, but I wasn't in Ohio anymore, so I didn't get to see that either. But he's finally coming to town with the Dead Daisies in September, so looking forward to that, and I suppose we'll hopefully do a video about that at that point as well. So Glenn Hughes, for sure. And of course, no list is complete without, the metal god himself, Rob Halford. Still pretty amazing. Still pretty amazing singer. I mean, Firepower, the latest record from Priest, was pretty awesome, gotta say. Kind of liked his really acrobatic stuff and a little more progressive stuff back in the 70s. And of course, in the 80s, got a little more streamlined. And then they just got freaking heavy with Painkiller. Then he went away for a while, and a kid from Akron came in for a bit, who could be on the honorable mention list as well. No, Tim Owens, of course. But yeah, I mean, Halford, what can you say? Next one might stir a little controversy, and I don't care. My next one is Paul Di'Anno. Love Paul Di'Anno. I don't care what anybody says. Take your Bruce. Bruce is great. Bruce is fine. But I showed up with Maiden with Di'Anno, and I got a soft spot for him. And those first two records, for me, you can't beat them. So that's just my opinion. But and Paul didn't do much after that. He did a couple records under the name Battle Zone, which were pretty darn good. Then they put out a third one that was sort of that rap rock kind of stuff, and I was like, nah, not my thing, brother. I mean, if that's what you're into now, that's cool. Go for it. And he did one album under the name Killers that was pretty awesome, called Murder One. I think came out around, I want to say 1990. So that one's worth checking out too. That, and then the Battle Zone records were from the late 80s. He also had a weird sort of pop album, if you will, just called Di'Anno. And you're in trouble when you flip the album over, and on the back of the album it says, the band's outfits are kindly supplied by Wrangler Jeans. I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. But anyway, but like I said, I got a soft spot for Di'Anno, so he's on my list. Okay. And to go along with the shirt here, coincidentally, Ann Wilson, come on, the Queen. Unbelievable singer, even to this day. Amazing. Matter of fact, this shirt came from Las Vegas. I didn't actually see the show, but my wife did. Christina was out there, met her cousin who lives in Alaska. That's a bit of insanity. I don't even understand. But they meet up in Vegas from time to time. And they went to see Hart out there at the Las Vegas Hilton, I believe. And she comes home telling me how great the show is. She says, they did some Who song that was just amazing. I said, yeah, what was it? Well, I said, I'm not sure, but she kept just screaming, wow! And I'm like, Love, Rain, or Me? She goes, yeah, that sounds right. I'm like, oh my God. Would have loved to have seen that. I mean, we've all seen the Stairway to Heaven clip, where Robert Plant's sitting there crying like a baby because it's so freaking good. We get it. But, it would have been fun to see her do that Who song, but I'm sure it's on YouTube someplace. But, yeah, Ann's been a favorite of mine since, 45 years ago, I would say. Probably around that, about 76, I think is when they got started. And I was pretty much on board with them right away. Another old-time guy, another guy named Paul Rogers. Amazing singer. I mean, what can you say? Bad Company and Free, and it was The Firm, The Law, all those different bands that he did. Solo stuff, did a lot of bluesy kind of stuff, which, I mean, talk about a great blues singer. That's the guy. You want blues rock, that's the guy. Some people may not know this, but Ritchie Blackmore actually wanted Paul Rogers to become Deep Purple singer when Ian Gillan left in 1973. And Rogers was just on the verge of starting Bad Company. I think they may have already been signed to Zeppelin's label Swan Song. So he already had that going. But I don't know if that would have worked or not, but that would have been interesting if Paul Rogers had ended up fronting Deep Purple for a while. But I think they did all right with Mr. Coverdale and Mr. Hughes. By the way, David Coverdale's on my honorable mentions list too. So he's pretty much on the list. I mean, if I pull a mulligan and had like 2 number 10s, he would probably be on there too. But like I said, these guys flip around a lot. Last guy on the quote-unquote top 10 list, and like I said, these all could interchange at any time. Jeff Tate. And I know my wife's a little iffy about Jeff Tate. Too much falsetto for her, she says. But I always thought he was great. And I always thought the Queensryche albums that he did were really good. And but I think she's coming around to him a little bit. I mean, she's heard a little more of his stuff. And she's like, yeah, okay. I'm starting to get it. But yeah, Jeff Tate I always thought was pretty amazing. And actually, the first time I saw Queensryche, I didn't know who they were. And at that point, they only had their 4-song EP out. And they were the opening band for Twisted Sister. But they were already doing songs from The Warning, as we figured out later. But yeah, they came out and we were just like amazed. So, you know, fans from all the way back in, I think it was 1983, was when we saw them and Sister together. So some of the honorable mentions I've already said, like say David Coverdale, of course. Robin Zander, you know, big Cheap Trick fan. Heard Robin here recently, and I think he's a little worse for the wear at this point, but really enjoyed all his songs and records through the years. Lou Gramm from Foreigner. I mean, just talk about a great rock singer. That's your boy right there. That guy could belt it out like anybody. I mean, just like nobody's business, right? Like I said, Coverdale I mentioned. And, of course, you know, my soft spot for Phil Lynott. You know, maybe not technically the world's great vocalist, but just the cool way he delivered a lyric, the way he liked to pronounce things, like really overpronounce his T's and things like that. You know, it was just a cool way of delivering a vocal. And, you know, and of course he had the interesting combination of, you know, the soulful side of him, and then of course the Irish side of him. He was very, very Irish, despite being a black man. He was very Irish. And you know, like I said, I do have a soft spot for Lizzie, as everybody knows. Another guy, and great guitar player too. He'll probably be on my guitar player list when we get around to that. Dave Metachetti from YNT, just great vocalist. I mean, I think a lot of times his vocals get overshadowed by his immense ability on the guitar, but I think he's a really great singer. Really like the guy a lot. A couple more. Doug Pinnick from King's X, somewhere between Hendrix and Phil Lynott. You know, just kind of has that, you know, bluesy Hendrixy kind of thing going for him, and really great vocalist. That's another guy that Ritchie Blackmore approached to be in Deep Purple, believe it or not, coincidentally, around 1990 when they did that whole Joe Lynn Turner thing in Deep Purple, which, you know, we all agree pretty much sounded like a Rainbow album for obvious reasons. I mean, because, you know, at one point Joe Lynn, Ritchie, and Roger Glover were all part of Rainbow, so it was really 4/5 Deep Purple and 3/5 Rainbow, and it sounded more like Rainbow. That's just how it was. But at that point, when Gillan left for, I don't know which time that was, but around 89 or so, he had actually approached Doug Pinnick about maybe being the singer for Deep Purple, and Doug declined because he was doing the King's X thing, obviously. And last guy on my list, and a soft spot for this guy because I kind of know him a little bit. Just, you know, sort of I'd say a good acquaintance. You know, we're not like best buds or anything, but Carl Dixon sang in a band called Coney Hatch for quite a while, has a lot of good solo albums. Comes to Orlando every year at the holidays, and we always go out and see him. And like I said, just through the years, I've come to just kind of know this guy. He certainly knows me by sight, and he's a really good singer, and I think an underrated guy. But if you check out the old Coney Hatch albums, yeah, he's got some great vocals. And like I say, he's definitely worth listening to. But yeah, Carl, you know, it's fun when we go see him, and I've seen a couple of his shows that were kind of very intimate, where like people didn't really know who he was, and he was kind of doing a lot of cover tunes and stuff. And one time, it was getting towards the end of the night, and most of the people that didn't know him had cleared out, and there was like about a half a dozen of us there at that point that, you know, really knew the Coney Hatch stuff and his solo stuff and that kind of thing. So we got him to start knocking out some old Hatch tunes, which was fun. And heck of a nice guy. We actually ran into Carl at a Iron Maiden show up at Darien Lake in upstate New York. Met my buddy Brian up there. Shout out to Brian. And went to the show. And the reason Carl was there primarily was because back in 1983, Coney Hatch actually opened up the Peace of Mind tour for Maiden. Them and Fast Eddie's old band. And So yeah, my buddy and I were sitting there. We had pretty good seats, and a couple rows in front of us, a few seats over. I said, Brian, isn't that Carl Dixon sitting over there? He's like, yeah, you know. So we went up and talked to him a little bit, and my buddy Brian is a pretty good acquaintance of him as well. A guy, Andy Curran, that was also in Coney Hatch. Brian had connections with him as well. So it was kind of nice seeing Carl in a different kind of setting. But so that's my list of singers. I'd like to see your list of singers. Give me your top 10. You know, let me know what you like. You know, on my list, what you don't like. It's all cool. But like I say, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all that. And like I said, we'll probably be doing bass players and guitar players and drummers and all that kind of fun stuff on future episodes. So look for that. And we'll see you all next time.